All right. Hi, Andrea. Welcome to Renna's Corner Conversations. So I met Andrea online, on Instagram, I think.
Mhm.
And
Yep, yep.
this was years ago, maybe 23 or
20.
24,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
something like that. So we've connected on a friendship level. We have multiple things in common. Probably. I mean, what brought us together was more of like social media, sharing different products, things like that back in the day. Um,
Yep.
Probably when I was doing Beachbody, I was a Beachbody coach way back then. Um, but I think ultimately what kept us together over these years is our children.
Yes.
Even though we have other things in common, like our children, we both have
Hmm.
children with genetic disorders. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself, about your son, and then we'll just kind of have a conversation back and forth.
Love that. Yeah, we met because I found you doing your Beachbody workouts on Instagram, and I thought I should connect with her because you're right. I was doing some affiliate marketing and some sales at that time. Let's see, my son. So yeah, I have two sons. One is going to be 20 next month, which makes me want to cry. It makes me feel old. The other one is 16. And my older son, everything was going along just great. He was like practically running before he was a year old and playing soccer and just all the sports and everything that you just expect a little boy to do. And I told my husband, who's an only child, single child, I'm like, we're having another one. We are definitely having siblings. So about 3 years later, we had another child, another son. Everything was the same. The pregnancy, everything was the same. And I'm like, cool, now I got two little guys who are going to play sports together and wrestle and all of this stuff. And you just don't see anything different. And when he was 5, he was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So, like Brenda said, a genetic disorder, neurological disorder. It's a progressive muscle wasting disease. The older he gets, the weaker his muscles get, unfortunately. At the time, when he was 5, he was walking and trying to climb and do things that other kids his age were doing, but his teachers were like, something's different. And when we found out, it was like, okay, when he's 12, he'll probably be in a wheelchair. The life expectancy is 20s. It just really, really just shocks your whole system when you get that kind of information. And I had no idea about it. I was a carrier, so I am a carrier. It mainly affects boys, this type of muscular dystrophy. So every time I got pregnant with a boy, there was a 50% chance that they would have muscular dystrophy. So my older son got my good X and my younger son got the bad one. But it was awful. It was very difficult to hear about that. But this child has taught me so much. And like I said, he's 16 now. He's full time in a wheelchair, but he is so smart and brave and just witty and just always keeping us on our toes. He has taught me so much about life. He's given me a whole new perspective, and yeah, encouraged me to make friends with people like Brenda and learn about the fact that lots of parents go through things like this, and lots of kids have things that we don't expect. When we're excited to share we're pregnant, we don't really know what's going to happen. And Brenda is, oh, I love watching her and Renna. And she's such an inspiration. And again, it just reminds me that it's okay that our kids are different. They do things their way. And yeah, like Brenda said, that's how we've connected. And so it's been very, very eye-opening to watch my child grow up. And he's amazing. I wouldn't trade him for anything. And yeah, so that's where we are today. Obviously, he's not playing soccer, but the other one is. But he's a huge sports fan, and he's just the light of our family for sure.
So I know with Renna, so Renna has Pitt Hopkins syndrome, and most of her stuff is delays. She does not currently speak with words. She has some, but they're not very consistent. And she's 6 too. Um,
Right. Difference in age, a lot of
yeah,
big difference in
yeah,
age.
yeah. And I know for us, um, it's I feel like, and hopefully I can phrase this the way I'm thinking it in my head. So for us, okay, she got diagnosed when she was 2.5. And I was just doing all the things, all the early intervention, all the outpatient therapies to try to get her caught up. I just thought she was delayed, I just do this, she does this, and she'll catch up. And we know that's not the case. She didn't start walking until she was like 4.5, but we didn't think she would even walk. But
Right, right,
so with all of that, when we got the diagnosis, I was very upset because I realized that it wasn't something she would just outgrow. But my husband and I were relieved because as far as we know, Pitt Hopkins is not like a life-limiting sort of a genetic thing. And so I actually had read a book and it had inserts from different parents. And I think there was one whose child had the same genetic disorder as your son. And I remember thinking like, wow, I just don't know how I would be able to handle that. And so I kind of want to pick your brain, and I know it's probably a difficult topic, but I just knowing you, I think you've worked through a lot of things, and I'm sure there's different stages of grief and all these things. But I would really love to hear your um not so much thoughts, but like how did you go through that knowing you said it that most people have a lifespan of in their 20s. So how did you deal with that? How did you work through it? How do you currently day to day because there's okay, and we never know. None of us know when
no,
our last day on earth will be, right?
right,
None of
right.
us know. So we should all be living in a certain way and
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
enjoying every moment. But I would love to just pick your brain on that one.
Yeah, well, you said a couple things that really hit me. If you had asked me this question 3 months after the diagnosis, I wouldn't have even been able to speak with you about it. But yeah, it's been 11 years, so it's much more of an accepted thing now and something that I'm comfortable speaking on. So it's not a problem to ask the question that you did. Actually, when you introduced me to this podcast that you're trying to do, you're saying, what can we do to help families? That you're always concerned about how you can help families. And the first thing I thought about was changing your perspective to live day by day instead of living 3 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That's the biggest thing that I've learned that I have to work on living in the present. So that's number one. Um, when I first received that information, first of all, his teachers brought some things to our attention, and then we made a neurological appointment with a neurologist. At that time, I was like, "Ugh, well, this is stupid. Like this is nothing. We're gonna find out it's nothing. Like you said, you can't compare kids. He was a little delayed on things. Things just are different for him. I was very defensive about it. But in the meantime, and I don't really remember how this happened, but we had a regular doctor appointment as well, like in between the teachers bringing things up. We had this blood test that he did, and then us going to this neurologist. I met with my regular doctor, with his regular doctor, and it was just a checkup. And I will never forget that day. It was just me. My husband had golf or something that night, and he's like, "Do you want me to go with you?" I'm like, "No, like we're okay. I'm gonna go." And I brought him, and she checked him out, and then she said, "Okay, the nurse is gonna take him, and like color with him. I want to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay." So the nurse takes him, and I'm standing right by the door, and the doctor like excuses them, shuts the door, turns around and like grabs my hands. I'm like, "Oh, okay. What are we doing here?" And she said, "I have not seen this. I've been a doctor for 20 years. I haven't seen it, even though it's rare, but it's pretty common within the rare disease situation." And she said, "I think it's Duchenne muscular dystrophy." Like we had no genetic test. We hadn't met with the neurologist yet, but she knew that we had this blood test. And she said, I just think this is what's going on with him. And she handed me this pamphlet, like this booklet. And on the first page is a picture of a kid in a wheelchair. And as you flip through, it gives you all of that timeline that I kind of just went through. And it's
Mhm.
devastating. You just do not expect that at all. I just it was the hardest thing ever, and I'm just like crying. She's crying, and we talked through it a little bit, and I was kind of mad at her, like, why is she doing this to me? And then the nurse brings Nathan, that's my son, Nathan, back in, and he drew a picture of him and his brother playing soccer. So it's just like dagger, it was like so difficult. And of course, it's just me. So when we left, again, I was mad. I'm like, why would she do this to me? Well, when we had the neurologist appointment, now I was full of information. So it was not easier, but I was like more armed and ready for the conversation. And unfortunately, my husband wasn't as armed as I was. He had done some Google searching, but he wasn't as armed. And then he broke down, but I was able to be like kind of sane and strong for that conversation. So I think back to your original question, and I would say this of you too. We often look at people and we say, "Oh, you're so strong. How do you do that? How do you do this? I could never if I was in your shoes." But you have to understand this. You don't really know how you're going to act until it happens to you. And I say like, if you're a parent that cares about your children, you just do what you have to do. So I had a really hard 3 months. We received all that information. The neurologist said pretty much the same thing the doctor had told us, the other doctor had told us. We had a genetic test. We had to wait 3 months for the confirmation. So during that 3 months, it's a complete blur. I don't really remember functioning during that 3 months. We were reluctant to tell the whole world. We fortunately have a ton of support, but that was really hard because I didn't want to explain it to everybody a million times. My family had a hard time with it. It was a really big struggle for 3 months. But after we got the official diagnosis, to your point, it was like, okay, now we know. Now we know what we're going to work with. Um, and then it was just like, take advantage of every day. And we're not as good as that all the time as we want to be, but I certainly can't look past a year at this point. If I start looking into the future, thinking about, oh, am I going to outlive him? How much more time do I have with him? It's just a spiral that is just very, very difficult, almost impossible for me to get through. Right now, he's a junior, getting ready to finish that up, and he'll be a senior next year. So when I start thinking, oh, what's next? What is he going to do? Oh my God, is he going to go to school? It's pure panic. So I really just try to stay in today. And again, to your point, we have no idea. Like I could get in a car accident tomorrow. So I found that we don't dwell on that. Early on, we were pretty close to a lot of people within the Duchenne community, as I like to call it. And something that stuck with me, one of the moms was like, somebody once said, "Oh my gosh, have you told your child about his condition and that he's going to die?" And she's like, we're all gonna die. So no, I haven't told him he's gonna die because it's not like that. And I've also heard a lot of people talk about it as grief. Like, oh, are you grieving your like what could have been? And I get that to a point, but I still have my child with me. He's 16, he's still here and he's still blessing lives and he's still teaching me and he's still, needs to be disciplined and he still drives me crazy and he still wants to stay up past his bedtime. There's all kinds of things that are just like what everybody else deals with. But I just don't think of it that way. We have no idea. I know some Duchenne kids that have passed away in their teens. I know some that are 30. So, it's an average, it's historical context. We're trying to just live every single day the best we can.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have similar thoughts that I have to stop when they come up because we don't know Renna's lifespan. Nope. God knows it. I don't know it. Nobody
God
else knows
knows
it.
it. Yep.
And if I start worrying and getting fearful, like what if I die first? What's going to happen? What if she dies first? I'm going to be a total mess. Like
Hmm.
when I start doing that, I think, okay, and I should get better at this, but for me, if I could just remember to stop and pray and ask God to just help me through that, help me not worry about that because you have a plan for us. Like, if
Yep.
I could get better at that, I feel like it would be not as difficult when it does pop up, but w- it sounds crazy, but literally what I kind of think in my head to stop those racing thoughts from going into doom and gloom is we could both die at the same time. And all this worrying would have been for nothing. That's literally the thought I have to force in my head
Yeah. Yeah, I get
because
that.
it's true, right? Like we could,
Hmm.
I don't even know. Sounds so
It's
funny to
very, no,
say
it's very
out
true. We
loud.
we don't we just don't know. Yeah.
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 I've had thoughts even. I've had the thought to stop those crazy thoughts. We could die in a plane crash.
Hmm. Or a car accident. I mean, I drive him to school every day. Yeah. So you're right.
And and I bet we're not the only ones that have
No.
these fears. And even families that have typical kids,
I
I'm
know.
sure
I
they
know.
worry about that too. It's just a little harder for us. And Nathan's a little bit more able to be independent. Renna,
Right.
yeah, no.
Ye- Yeah, he's fortunately completely there mentally, but there are kids that have Duchenne that also have other disorders. So I'm very blessed that yeah, he's in general education. He can remember every sports fact you ever want to know. If you want to know what the weather is going to be like next week, he knows. Like he's very smart and very with it as far as mental goes. So you're right. He can express himself and he can express himself and he can also understand a little bit more about what's going on with him, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, I wish, well, I shouldn't say I wish. It would be helpful if Renna could communicate more effectively, and we're working on that. And
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping that she will be able to effectively communicate, whether it's with more words, whether it's with a device, whether it's spelling. Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
many different ways, and I believe she will and is capable. It's just a matter of her body. I think her body doesn't necessarily do what her brain is telling it to do. Because I see her trying and I see her
Mm-hmm.
like staring at my mouth and moving hers. Like she is trying to do these things. But it would be really helpful currently and in the future if she could tell me things like,
Mm-hmm.
why, why are you so grumpy? Is there something wrong? Why are you This is currently happening. Why are you screaming at the top of your lungs so loud that it hurts my ears and I have a ball, one of her balls. I've been holding my ears and I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem distressed. It doesn't seem like she needs something. And it's been a week of this
Mm.
screaming at the top of her lungs. We were at Chick-fil-A with a friend last Friday and her son. And she was pretty loud in the restaurant, but I took her to the bathroom because she's learning how to use a potty and she's doing really good. And screaming at the top of her lungs. And again, it didn't seem like distress. I don't know what it was. And I had to hold my ears. And I heard somebody come in. I heard her go, "Oh my." She walked out. And I was just like, I don't even know. People probably hear her like in the parking lot at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what it is. And I wish you could tell me. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's vocal stimming. I have no idea. But it would
Right.
be helpful if she could tell me those things a little bit more. But,
Yeah,
you know,
we're very blessed there that at least he can tell us what hurts, what's going on, what's bothering him. Yeah.
yeah, you said something that made me think of something else. I forget how you phrased it, but it's kind of along the lines of um, grieving. You said something about grieving, and I think
Hmm.
early on there is a ton of ups and downs and
Yeah.
feelings and
And those stages,
unknown.
right? The stages of grief, like you do feel like you go through parts of them.
Yeah. And it's
Hmm.
it's not that you've lost someone to death, right? Because that's the grief we all are familiar with. We've probably all gone through it. But it's more of a grief of what you thought would be. That's
Hmm.
what you were saying. You had
Hmm.
the second son, you were so excited. They're gonna play sports together. Like this, you in picture. And I always think of it like, yeah, we all, most of us, picture growing up, getting married, getting a house. What do they say? With a white picket fence,
Hmm.
dog, and two
Yep.
kids, and like this perfect life. And that doesn't happen for anyone. But I always kind of think back, like, yeah, that's what I did with Renna. I was excited to, at 39, get pregnant with Renna and have a child and have this life. And she was going to go mountain biking with me because that's what my husband and I used to do all the time. And we were just excited about this future that we planned. And again, this is like, okay, well, you can have all these plans, right? But that's not what God had planned for our lives, right? For our
Right.
children. And I always feel, and maybe not in the beginning, but right now, I feel like Renna, it's so hard for me to explain this, but it's like Renna was designed on purpose, even with a genetic disorder, and that all of us really, right? I don't, I'm so terrible at recalling Bible verses, but we were knit in our mother's womb, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so all of us have a purpose.
Hmm.
And I think we think of like purpose, success, money,
Right.
but we are all here for a purpose. And we might not see it right now, right? But there's a purpose for all of this. And some of it's very difficult. And maybe the difficult things are there to change us and grow us and shape us and open our eyes to others who are different from us. I know that
Right.
I've done that. Like, before I might just walk past somebody because they're different or whatever,
Hmm.
or I would avoid someone who I didn't know how to interact with,
Hmm.
but I don't want someone doing that to my child.
Right.
I want her to be known and I want her to be loved and accepted. I don't want people to just walk by her because she's different.
Right.
So it just kind of opens your eyes. And I have no idea if any of that made sense.
No, it did. And actually, I'm getting emotional. I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now. A couple of reasons, but one, you're making me think so much about both of my children when you were saying like, oh, two boys, and it's like my older son. Gosh, this is ridiculous. I think it's because he's going to be 20, like I said.
Yeah.
But Nathan would say, my older son, who's Nick, he would say, Nick's your favorite because you always talk about him this way. He has such an amazing heart. I mean, both of my children do, but Nick is like, you just said it, like Nathan has shaped him. Having a sibling that's in a wheelchair has made Nick this person who is more empathetic, I think. His heart is so big. Like, I remember thinking about, I think you're just making me think of them when they were younger. I just remember how you see we have soccer families around us all the time, and they have lots of boys. We've got boy moms and dads all over. There's boys everywhere. And you watch these siblings and they wrestle. Like boys, I don't get it. I grew up with two sisters. Boys wrestle. They just love to
Yes.
like, I don't understand, but okay, they do that. And Nathan always wanted to do that with his brother, but he doesn't have the same type of strength. Nick was always so worried, like, am I going to hurt him? Am I going to do something that's bad for him? And Nathan be like, come on, like, let's go, jump on me. And Nick would do it, but he would do it so gingerly and like carefully and like make Nathan believe it was happening, but not full on. And he's just always done that. And I think it's just shaped him into this caring person more so than like I just don't understand that. I didn't grow up with a sibling like that. So having this empathy at a young age, not that he's any better than any kids his age. He's got an amazing group of friends, but I just think he's got this ability that not everybody has.
Yeah.
So,
No, I've heard
purpose.
that a lot with siblings where they just have this different heart for others. There was a Pitt Hopkins family conference that we went to in Colorado 2 years ago, I think. And there was actually a sibling panel. And it was so interesting to hear the siblings' point of view, good and bad,
Hmm.
because Renna has a half brother who he's gonna be 21 this summer.
Oh
Crazy.
gosh.
Same thing, right? And
Hmm.
I met him when he was 11. So crazy. He was like shorter than me, and now he's like
Yeah, no, it's
huge and way
yeah.
taller. Um, but I lost track of what I was saying.
Well, we were talking about siblings and how they are a little
Oh,
different.
yes,
So,
yes.
so
Um,
was he involved in Runner's life for a while? Not really.
So he never lived with us, so he would see her kind of like on the weekends. And it's funny because she wanted to wrestle with him. And she's this tiny little
She's
thing.
so
So
cute. Yeah,
yeah,
little.
he would like throw a blanket on her and she'd like try to get out of it and she'd like come over to him then and he would just push her and then she'd keep coming back. So it was like super cute how they would interact. And now he's at college, so
Yeah.
we don't really see much of him at all. But I feel like it's really hard to make sure that you have equal focus on both your kids
Hmm.
because one of them definitely has more needs, right?
Needs,
That
yeah.
they can't
Hmm.
necessarily fulfill on their own. So I
Right.
think what really happened to us, whether this is good or bad, is Renna became my child, kind of like I would focus on Renna and then my husband would focus on Ryan. And he would do things with Ryan on the weekend, and I'd do things with Renna. And sometimes we'd come together and do the things. So I think either way could be bad. Like,
Yeah.
because obviously that can separate the husband and wife because
Right.
one focus is here, one focus is here. Have you found a good way to balance that, or is that a struggle for you guys too?
Well, earlier when you said what has gotten you through, I don't know how people do it if they're single parents. So I've been very blessed that my husband and I have decided to partner. So I feel like we do a lot of things together. I have declared I'm the caregiver. So I take on as many of the responsibilities as I can, but my husband still like jumps in. I think that Nathan and I have a closer bond because I'm with him all the time and he tells me everything,
Yeah.
but my husband is there enough. And then as far as like both children, Nick is hardcore soccer, has been since he was 3, and Nathan loves sports. So it's always been like, we're going to a sports game. So I feel like we were always there for Nick with his sport. So I feel like hopefully that he feels like, okay, they are there for me. What's really funny is you said one always needs more than the other. My Nick does not need much from us, cell phone, a little bit of money. We're helping him with, we're helping pay for college. But outside of that, he's doing his own thing, living his best life. Nathan needs everything. And I'm still like, why doesn't Nick need me anymore?
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
why are you like that? You have a child who needs everything. Just be
Mm.
good with that.
Yeah, it's kind
So,
of like that, which I don't know that I'll ever have this, but like that empty nest sort of a feeling.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
but you used to need me, and now what do I do?
Right. I'm like, I'm here. He's like, I need you still, Mom. I love you. I'm like,
Right.
okay, good. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, Nathan needs everything. So why can't that be enough? I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I know,
But
I know. Well, we're running down to our last five-ish minutes. I want
yeah.
to have you share a little bit about um outside of being a mom, what else you're doing because I think were the first person to ever invite me to a podcast. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And I literally tried to like prepare, and then I realized, like, okay, I am not good at script
Me either. Me
preparing.
either.
And I just showed up, but I remember being so nervous. And then I remember hearing it, and I'm like, wow, okay, I
You were
did
great.
okay.
Yeah.
But I had no thoughts of doing my own at all, like not at all. And I feel like everything I've done has organically just kind of grown from one little thing to another thing to another thing. But I would love for you to just share a little bit more about what you're doing, your podcast.
Yeah.
And I know you've things have changed since we first
Yes.
met for both of us.
Yes.
So, all
Yep.
right, you have 4 minutes now.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to say, I mean, you were an awesome guest, and I want to have, I told you I want to have you on again. There's a few people I want to have on again, and I'm proud of you for what you're doing because I'm the same as you. It's like, let's just get on here and talk. So I like what you're doing, and I'm really excited that you kind of moved into that space. And it's been amazing to follow Renna.
Oh,
She's wow, all the things that she's doing compared to when I first met you. It's awesome. Anyway, I talk a lot. I need to get to the point. So yes, I do have a podcast and it's the same thing. Like I just feel like I wanted to put my story out there and allow others to do the same. And you described it perfectly. Our plans are not our own. We are not in control. God's in control. Plans don't always go the way we expect them to go. And so it's called Show Me the Way. I love it. I've been doing it since September 2024. I drop a new episode every single week and it's friends, it's family members, it's people I've never met, and it's just no script, just like this, and just get on, tell me your story. Sometimes it's very specific, like here's what happened when my daughter was diagnosed. Sometimes it's I had a fire at my house. Sometimes it's I moved to another state or I'm just dealing with changes throughout my whole life. So it's been amazing to hear people's stories and to be able to share mine. I do have to have my older son on. I've had Nathan on, I've had my husband on, getting their perspective. My older son's a little more of an introvert, so he has not been on yet. But yeah, hearing people tell their stories, and I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers yet, but I'm going to. So I love to talk and I love to share stories and I love to ask questions. And some people have even said it's like a therapy session. So that's been really fun. I'm also a realtor. I've just always tried to do things now, ever since Nathan was diagnosed. What can I do at home? What can I do with my own schedule? I used to be in corporate. I never thought I'd be a realtor, but it enables me to control my own schedule. If I want to show a house, I can. If I would rather go to my son's soccer game, that's my choice. So I like being in charge of my own schedule. I was trying to do some multi-level marketing and some affiliate marketing because again, things you can do at home to make a little bit of extra money. And it was very fun for a little while, but now I'm kind of burned out by that. So really focused on the real estate and the podcast. And once again, show me the way, little plug. So if anyone wants to go listen to Brenda's episode, you'll have to do that.
yeah, we will link everything either in
Perfect.
the
Yeah.
comments or the description for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely share your episode because you were great. I love Rena's entire story and I've seen you grow too, which has been really fun.
hmm Yeah, I will have to listen to the episode of your son for sure. And your husband too.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to hear. And then if
Yeah.
Nick's ever on it.
I
Um,
know. I really want him to be on it. Maybe this summer when he's home from school, I'll make him do it one day.
yeah. And I feel like the our podcasts and our conversations are helpful for other families, but I feel like it's really helpful for us too,
Yeah.
because we can verbally process some of the things too and get
Hmm.
different perspective from different people and hear different stories. And I
Right.
am just loving it. Like, again,
Yeah.
I never thought that I would be doing this. So,
Well, you're
but
doing great. Good
well,
job. I
thank
love
you.
this.
You.
I love
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll share some of the links in the episodes and stuff. But yeah, this has been a great conversation. Again, we had no
Yes.
idea where it would go, but
Nope.
I feel like it's been amazing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.